name is Joni Arrett. Thank you for joining us for this month's Coronavirus Confusion Abounds presentation. We'll be talking about all things pest control licensing. Did you know you had to be licensed to apply pesticides on school grounds in Texas? Say what? Yeah. If that's news to you, you're in the right place. Janet Hurley is with us. For those of y'all that don't know her, she is the school IPM guru, I would say, not only in Texas, but beyond its borders. We've had the pleasure of working with her and getting to know her over the many years of our tenure, both Shelley and I, and we're excited to have her share her knowledge on this, on the rules and the program, as well as just kind of navigating the licensing options. As I mentioned, Shelley and I will be moderating today, so please add questions into the chat feature as we go through this. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of ins and outs to it. We don't expect y'all to have all the answers. That's why we're providing this session. So please, let's pause. Let's ask those questions and tackle kind of the issues or the, the confusion that maybe you have with all this information. Shelley Branstetter and I are both with TASB, kind of in different areas. And again, we've had the pleasure of kind of promoting these programs and working with Janet over many years. Like I mentioned, if you do have any questions, you can use the chat feature found on either your Zoom options bar is either along the bottom of your screen, maybe along the side of your screen, depending on kind of how your layout is. But, and if you're not sure how to navigate that, you're more than welcome to unmute your mic and just say, excuse me, I have a question. We understand. With that being said, please keep your mic muted as we go through this so we don't have a lot of background noise and folks are able to hear clearly. At the completion of this presentation, we will have access to the recording available so you can go back and listen to it again. And we're always curious to know, how did you think about the presentation? Did it answer your questions? And what other topics would you like us to dive into? That being said, next month's presentation and the invitation as well as the registration really has just gone out in the last week. So look for it, and more promotion will go out next week. Be sure to mark your calendar and join us on Tuesday, April 6th at 10 a.m. We're going to be diving back into the topic of ventilation, because while we talked about it last year, a year in a pandemic is a large amount of time, and a lot has changed. And we really want to provide you with up-to-date information as you make plans to maybe do a lot of work and renovation this summer. So be sure to mark your calendars and join us. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing, and Janet's going to pick it back up. So please, everyone, mute your mic. If not, we'll come through and mute it all.
Yeah, Gary Logan. There you go. Is that
Those
Gary?
questions.
Where? No, it's not.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
And
Okay. Why are you not there you go. Like, why are you not sharing? You close, you close, you close. Good morning, everyone. I hope you can actually see the screen. And at the same time, Joni or Shelley, one of the things, just make sure if people come in, if you can make sure that you can omit them, because there is the waiting room. All right, so again, my name is Janet Hurley. I'm an extension program specialist with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension. My role here has been helping schools with their pest control programs when it comes to school districts. Over the years, yes, has expanded, and especially what has expanded is, how do I get a pest control license? And it really comes down to the fact that it's kind of confusing in our state, because when you think about pesticides, and I'm talking about things like herbicides and insecticides, you think, well, I can go and get that anywhere, and why do I need a license? Well, you need a license because our state requires that. So this is what we're going to cover today. hopefully. So what is a pesticide, and then why are some regulated more than others? So I'm going through basic stuff. There is a law, and it is called FIFRA, and we call FIFRA the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, Rodenticide Act. And in that law, which is a federal law, they define pesticides. So a pesticide is any substance or mixture of substances intended for preventing, destroying, repelling, or mitigating any pest. Did you see anywhere where it said kill? That is an extremely important concept to understand about the term of pesticide. Any substance or mixture of substances intended for use as a plant regulator, defoliant, or desiccant. So again, it depends on what you're doing and where you're doing it. And we're going to talk about that as we keep going through here. Again, you might use a defoliant. If you were trying to eliminate, eliminate, that's not a great word, defoliate the leaves off of cotton plants, then that's what you would be using. Any nitrogen stabilizer. EPA's regulations provide additional clarification. So what they say is, and this is where it gets, this especially with COVID, because the US EPA, under that definition of FIFRA, regulates antimicrobials, disinfectants, and sanitizers, as well as fungicides, insecticides, herbicides, rodenticides, some of the more common things that you think of when you think pest control. But it says here that that intent on that product is important in determining specific product information. So in other words, if you're looking at a product label and the product has on it some type of advertising or makes a claim to kill something like bed bugs, then it is the composition. We're going to spray, and this is a household spray for anything. How do you use it? And then the mode of action. Actually, how is it distributed? And then is there any problem for not just humans, but non-target organisms as well? Then there is this part, and this is where one agency works with another agency when it comes to federal regulations, is on a product, if they claim on labeling or advertising, this includes the internet, and they make claims to kill, destroy, mitigate, remove, repel, or any other similar action against any pest, but they've not gone through the process of getting that registered with the US EPA, that is a violation. Indirectly states or implies an action against a pest, draws a comparison to a pesticide. In other words, is like something else, or there's pictures of pests on the label. So you look at a label and it's got pictures of dandelions, but it doesn't have an EPA registration number on it. But those are things that make this a little bit dicey when we're talking about claims of what is a pesticide. Oh, we're not going to score. So again, what is FIFRA? That again is the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, Rodenticide Act. And like I said, it provides federal regulation of pesticide distribution, sale, and use. Knowing this and knowing what we do with FIFRA, having this federal regulation, and this came into play in the 70s, and it was extremely important because chemicals were being made, but no one was regulating what they do, how you do it, why you do it. So again, we had to have somebody watching the hens, okay? Pesticides are distributed or sold in the United States must be registered, licensed by the EPA. So it starts with one federal regulation, and I'll go into how it goes into Texas. Then before EPA may register a pesticide under FIFRA, the applicant, so that's the manufacturer, the companies, you know, that like the BASF, the FMCs, the Wellmarks, the Bell Labs, all of those companies, manufacturers, and those were all names just used to give you examples. Before they can actually put a product on market, they have to show the EPA what their product does in research trials, kind of like what we do with drugs. And we've now all learned a lot more about how vaccines are created. Pesticides are very similar. It takes a process of getting it from point A to point Z. Point A being conception, point Z, a market. And it doesn't matter if it is a consumer market, which means you can buy it off the shelf at any big box store, or it's considered restricted use and only license holders can get it. There's a variety of what EPA regulates, but it is designed to protect consumers and the end user in using these products, because we've learned a lot since we started playing with chemistry. So the Texas response was this. Early in the 1900s, and this is again very similar to the act that instilled the U.S. Department of Agriculture, states were again starting to play with chemistry. Remember, we're going from an agrarian society to an industrial society, but at the same time, we're trying to feed more people. We're trying to find solutions. Therefore, we're playing with chemistry so that we can control insects and weeds. Those were the two primary things when we started playing with chemistry, because we were trying to grow more crops. So we had TDA formed in 1907. The regulations were under the USDA for close to 70 years. When you see that 1971 date, let us think about the other things that we talk about when we talk about the creation of IPM. Silent Spring coming out, the creation of the Clean Water Act coming out, the creation of the US EPA coming out, splitting responsibilities from the Department of Ag and EPA. And that's when EPA took over all of the pesticide registration. And at that point also said to the states, okay, your state requirement is you too have to have an agency that looks at least at the minimum of what we've got. States can be more restrictive on, while the federal level says only these people need to be licensed at this area, the state of Texas or the state of Louisiana or Alabama or whatever other state you want to pick on, all has their own rules that say, okay, when we do pest control in our state, this is actually how we're going to operate it. And so in the 70s, and this is distinctive because when we created the Structural Pest Control Board, what we did was we took indoor pest control and we moved it away from our Department of Ag, let the Department of Ag deal with private applicators, primarily agricultural things. And as time went on, yes, landscaping. Landscaping was, it was a part of our culture in the 70s and 80s, but not really. It wasn't until the 90s and 2000s and now 2021. I mean, you got to have if you live in a city, you're expected to have certain lawn expectations. That's a whole other talk. But between 72 and 2007, you had two different regulatory agencies. We had the Structural Pest Control Board that licensed people who did spraying and such inside. And then you had the Department of Ag. So what we would call the SPS, those license holders, again, could do exterior and weed applications, but those fell under categories. Most commonly, it was in general pest and termite, and that's really what drove this. It was the termite regulations that really were the driving force behind a lot of states enacting much more stringent regulatory rules when it came to termites, because termites in a home can have some really bad problems. On the other side, like I said, TDA license holders, those were for private or landscape management for cities, golf, or cemeteries. For the majority, I know for the majority of my career from 2001 to current day, there is a variety of license holders using that outdoor. And then in 2007, when the Texas legislature abolished the Structural Pest Control Board, everybody fell under the Department of Ag, because again, the Department of Ag regulates, takes in, approves what pesticides can be used in our state. But if they've already got in place rules for licensing, then it made sense to put the people who do indoor pest control back with the people who do pesticides. So everybody's all under the same roof. They are just different divisions, because we now have the Structural Pest Control Service. And as you'll see, I will call the other side the Pesticide Division, because that's actually how their website breaks them apart. But for y'all understanding, the outdoor is landscape management, like I said, private applicator, those people. But when we go outside, you can actually start obtaining 2 different licenses if all you're going to do is fire ants and weeds. So to break this down, you have 3 different groups when you go in to take your licensing exam. Commercial. Commercial means you're going to sell your services. All right. That is the Janet's Pest Control of the world. I advertise. I, come out. I do a service at your account, whatever it takes. Okay. And this includes pest prevention and, most importantly, identification. And especially when it comes to identification, when it comes to indoor pests, termites specifically, there are specific categories that allow you to do that. Then you go to non-commercial. So non-commercial typically are agencies or institutions, but we can also define them as apartment buildings, daycare centers, hospitals, nursing homes, hotel, motel lodges, warehouse, food processing establishments. And when we say schools or educational institution, that is K through 12 and higher ed and community college. That's everybody. Then when we go into, and on the pesticide side, which is the TDA ag side, on landscape management and especially under vector control, there is a non-commercial political subdivision category. This means you work for a governmental entity, city of blank blank, county of blank blank, okay? Those, or sometimes either it's an independent school district, and even some cemeteries fall under that depending on where you're at, because this is Texas and no 2 things are ever alike in any 2 counties throughout our 254 counties. So here's where it starts. What do you want to do? So I know a lot of y'all are participating in your school district, folks. And this is the question, and this is why we're doing this, is y'all ask us all the time, well, my superintendent wants me to take care of, or we need to take care of. So the conversation starts, well, what are you doing? Are you taking care of pests indoors? Cockroaches, ants, flies, fleas, rodents, bed bugs, anything inside the building envelope. That requires a structural pest control license. Outdoors, You can also do ants, grubs, and herbicides, but that requires additional licensing categories. So the primary license for structural pest control is generally category pest. Then myself, I picked up lawn and ornamental and weed, because when we're working in schools, it's preferable by the Structural Pest Control Service that y'all have a structural pest control license. Now, if I'm doing termite work, you don't get any other choice. You need to do termites. So a lot of times folks will at least have the pest and the termite category. Now, you come to me and you say, well, Janet, all we want to do is take care of some of our athletic fields and our playgrounds and some of those areas that, we don't normally mess with, but, occasionally we'll have some type of activity out there. Well, if those are pests outdoors, ants, this could be anywhere from harvester ants, leaf cutting ants, to fire ants, tawny crazy ants, mold crickets, and then we're talking herbicides, anything from poison ivy to Dallas grass, or just doing simple fence lines. That all requires a landscape management license. And you can either get the TDA landscape management license. And again, they've got that commercial or non-commercial. So even for folks that have got their own business and they're going and doing things from house to house, this is a really good license to have, even if all you're doing is an occasional spot treatment of something, shows professionalism. But the landscape management 3A license allows for employees to work outdoors, no pests on the building. So what does this mean? This means that if they are outdoors making an application, they go from the edge of the building all the way to the edge of the property. They cannot take care of wasps on a building. That's actually a structural pest control license. But now wasp out on a tree, that's a landscape license. So that's the difference. No perimeter applications with this landscape license. So in other words, you couldn't do an insecticide around a building to keep ants out, because that again is a pest license, because the idea of the pest license is trying to prevent pests from coming in the building, whereas a landscape management license is I am managing the landscape from one edge to the other so that all the property is managed. And in truth, if I'm talking fire ants, this is the license you really need, because you want to be able to do that broadcast bait. So things to consider. So now we're getting into the dicey part. You're sitting there going, okay, now what do I do? How do I get licensed? All right, take a deep breath. How much knowledge? Do you have any? Do you have none? Because the reason I say that, even when I started, I didn't have a whole lot of knowledge. So I know I needed to invest time in studying. So that's what I mean. You just can't look at this and go, oh, I'm going to go get my license and go through the steps I'm telling you without investing in getting the education and the studying. Cost. This is a big one. How much are you willing to pay? If it's an in-house employee, yes, the training versus what you pay somebody and the exponential benefit from it that we cannot measure, because you cannot measure sound mind, right? But you can measure how much it's going to cost to get the materials, how much it's going to cost for an employee, and then, but at the same time, you can measure some other silent costs, like no complaints. And again, how much time do you have to devote to studying, and then also keeping up with the paperwork? As a licensed applicator, doesn't matter the state you're in, you've got to keep paperwork. And I'm here to tell you, paperwork is key and essential to everything you do, because you never know who's going to ask you, what did you do? When did you do it? How did you do it? And why? Why did you do it? So where do you get your study materials? Well, there's this little coworker down in College Station, and his name is Dr. Don Ranchi, and he runs our agricultural and environmental safety unit. And within this unit, because he is designated as the state pesticide safety education coordinator, which again, every state has to have because of these pesticide rules, he has the information that you need for your training materials. They have order forms of what you get, and then again, what is offered. So this next slide, you can literally take your cell phone, take a picture of this, and that will take you to his website. These are the manuals. These are just copies of what are some of the examples of the manuals that they offer. But typically, and I wanted to point this one out because I'm going to talk about taking the 8-hour class. If you take, typically when you take the 8-hour technician class, no matter the provider, generally they offer this manual as part of that core training because this is essential. This book, if you don't know it from cover to cover by the time you go to take your exam, you're not going to pass the general exam. And we're going to talk about what exams you need, but remember this book. Hopefully I've stayed long here enough so y'all take pictures. Moving, come on, move forward. So licensing qualifications, I went with the easy one first because the structural is a little bit more complicated. Hang on, y'all, need caffeine. I would love to see that on the Zoom recording. Landscape management 3A license. All right. For most of you participating today, what you are looking for is either a commercial or a non-commercial license, and you're wanting to do something outdoors. Like I said, if you're a landscape company and you want to do things, then the license you're going to want is this landscape management. They also have a nursery license. They also have our public health vector licenses. I'll go into a little bit more detail, but I'm focusing on landscape because that's the one that we get the most questions over. So anyone who makes a passing score on that general standards pesticide applicator examination, including the laws and regs, and takes a category exam, so like I said, that landscape management exam, is eligible to be certified as a license holder. What this means is if I obtain those study materials and I go sit to take the exam, as long as I pass those exams with the score of 76 or better, then I'm a license holder and I can go out and make pesticide applications. Notice there isn't a whole lot that goes with this. I study, I apply, I take the exams, I pass the exam, I'm a licensed applicator. Now, I'm going to do this, but I have to get my structural license. Well, then it gets a little dicey. So if you're new to our state and you think you're starting your own pest control business, especially spraying inside people's homes and you can just go do it, no, because what we require is if you've never worked in pest control before, then this first one applies to you. I'll explain testing at the end. Have verifiable employment in pest control industry under the supervision of a licensed certified applicator for at least 12 months out of the past 24 months, must have possessed a technician license for at least 6 months during that same time period. So when we're talking about being a certified applicator, we're talking about being someone who has gone through a process. The process in our state is if you've never, ever done pest control, You've got to work for this certified applicator, and it's actually a responsible certified applicator as an apprentice, take the technician exam, and then once you are a technician, then at least be under the supervision and have been working in that for at least 2 years. So this is why it gets a little complicated.
Janet, we have a question from Carmen. Can testing be done online?
We'll talk about that at the end.
Thank you.
All right. Now, if you worked in another state and you moved to Texas, then if you have verifiable certification from XYZ state, you can submit that to the Structural Pest Control Service, and they can actually determine what is your level of experience and then go from there as far as allowing you to be licensed. I mean, this depends on what state you're in, what kind of license you had before, depending on how much you might have to still do to get approved in our state, because we're kind of persnickety. Now, this one kind of lets you skip almost to the head of the class, and this is where it becomes interesting if you're in the non-commercial applicator area. So as a non-commercial applicator, I'm working for a school district, I'm working for a university, I'm working for a warehouse, I'm working for a nursing home. I've got an environmental science degree or a biological science degree or something like that, and I've got my degree. Well, I can submit that with my application to the Department of Ag, and that can be considered part of my training so that I may go sit for my exam. Because when you fill out the applications, they're going to ask you a series of questions, and this for the structural licensing is part of it. You're going to have to answer at least 1 through 5. If you're not 1 through 3 and you're number 4, so I work for a school district, and I know there's a few of you on here. I just went through this crazy school IPM training and found out I need to get licensed from my school district. Well, now I need to go sit through that 8-hour technician training class that allows me to learn more about that initial manual so that I'm better prepared to take the exam. Because this is a lot of information. I mean, you're going to have to understand the FIFRA rules. You're going to have to understand the TDA rules. You're going to have to understand what it is a pesticide, and then what are pests and what is IPM. There is a lot of information, and this course just kind of scratches the surface. And then again, maybe you've had a previous license and then you retired, didn't think anything about it, and then you want to come back out of retirement. Sometimes the department can actually work with you on that as well. We've had some issues where, it was a family thing. So under the structural pest control rules, and this is extremely important, as a licensed structural pest control person, even though I'm a non-commercial applicator, no one can work under my license, even though I work at the Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Station in Dallas. No one can do that. I can only do this. Now, I can have an apprentice and I can have a technician, but generally when we're talking non-commercial, we just go ahead and if we can go through the 8-hour class and then become an applicator, mostly because this path is a very difficult path. Now, I have my own company. I really don't, but hypothetically, I have my own pest control company. And I am the business owner. And because I'm also the business owner and I'm a small operation, under the law for structural pest control, I'm also considered the responsible certified applicator. As a responsible certified applicator, I am the buck stops here person. All right. This means that if one of my apprentices, technicians, or certified applicators messes up somewhere, it's all on me. It will eventually fall on my desk and it's all on me. But it's also all on me to train the apprentice, the new person who comes in. I want to make sure that they're well trained. So we train them. Must be physically present 3 days out of the week. After I've trained them, they go through this exam process. I tell everybody, at least 6 months, but if the apprentice is a smart cookie and you can get them into that technician exam process, the sooner you can, the sooner it is, especially as a responsible certified applicator. I don't have to hold their hand 3 days a week. I can only hold them 1 day a week because I trust them enough to go out and do what is required of them under the pest management standards of our company and the state rules. As a certified applicator, well, I can work with the technicians and apprentices. I can help mentor them. I can help with the responsible certified applicator, making sure things are going well. But again, I make sure we're doing our company's policies right. I can help customers identify things. I am just part of the glue that keeps everything together. And again, like I said, no apprentice or technician can just go out and be by themselves. They do need to be, the certified applicator must be present 3 days a week for an apprentice and must be physically present 1 day a week for technicians. So now here comes the fun part. And I hope to step y'all through this. I tried to set this up in step processes. So how do you apply for your license? When you get into the structural pest control side, you have 2 choices, and we'll look at the screens, commercial and non-commercial. Then your other choices, and these are the 4 common ones. There's some other ones, but we're not covering that. I'm just going over the basics that we most commonly get when we're surrounding school property or non-commercial property. But the other categories are pest, lawn and ornamental, weed, and termite. And like I said, pest means everything on the indoor or the exterior perimeter, and you're trying to keep it out. Spraying the perimeter of the building to keep all your ants out. That would require a structural pest control license in pest. On the pesticides division, like I said, that's how TDA calls this others half. You have 4 different license category, licensing divisions. Private applicators, so that's generally agricultural production. Then I have commercial, right? I'm going to sell something. Non-commercial, I'm doing something like on a golf course, or I'm on, let's see, like I said, a cemetery or hospital or nursing home, something like that. And then a non-commercial political subdivision says, I work for a city or a county, and because there's some other governmental, because when you talk about the state agencies, while we all have different names, we all are all brothers and sisters in arms when it comes to living under the Texas legislature and everything else that goes with that political association. Now, my categories, like I said, 1 is for agricultural pest, and that's where that private applicator. Forest pest control, well, that's a category 2. We generally don't have anything in commercial. Generally, that's a non-commercial. But there are some, depending in the piney woods. The one that we are most familiar with, and the one that I'm going to focus on really is this lawn and ornamental plant pest control. And that is 3A, landscape management. And then 12, which is our public health pest control, vector control. Those are for, like I said, our folks that work for cities and counties that actually do like mosquito control. Or maybe they may not have a big mosquito, but their public health pest could be the conose bugs, like the kissing bug, or they could have problems with ticks or flies or even rodents, because public health is rodents do fall under vector control as well when we're talking cities or counties. Now, these are the fees, and you're going to just focus right now only on the bold. So if I'm trying to get that pesticide license and I'm going to get my commercial and non-commercial, it's $200. I wrote the wrong one this morning. So, and it's $75 for the non-commercial political subdivision. And I will talk about how much the cost for admitting exams are, but it's $64 per exam, and it doesn't matter which group we're talking. On the structural side, those folks, when you get licensed, again, it's generally $125 for a certified non-commercial applicator or $125 for a technician. There is a different process for apprentices, and I didn't put that in this slide deck, but you can go here to the Department of Ag and find out that information when it comes to apprentices. Because I wanted to make sure that you understood all this, you're going to see a couple more of these scan slides where you can literally look at the scan, and it's going to take you to the website where we're going. So going to this tab on the Texas Agricultural website takes you to where it says pesticide programs or regulatory, and there's this whole list over here. Generally, when you click on this, when you're on their website, there's also a drop-down menu, but I wasn't going to try and do that and show you at the same time. That would be kind of crazy. But we're going to focus on this category right now. We're going to go to this pesticides header, and under that pesticides header, this is the part where I need to apply for my license. So this is the step where you say, okay, I'm going to bite the bullet. I've got to get this TDA landscape management license, or I need to get my public health license, or my forest license, or my vegetation management right away license, whatever category it is. I'm going to hit on this link. And when I hit on that link, this screen comes up. So on the pesticide side, you've got a couple of options. You can actually e-apply, or you can do it in paper form. In the paper form, you have a commercial or a non-commercial, and you can literally download the PDF, fill it out, and mail it into the Department of Ag. I am here to tell you now, we are in 2021. If you want this to go swiftly, you do not do paper and mail it in. When I get to the structural side, you will see how we do it all the way through when you apply online. And once you apply online, the process is pretty darn quick because it goes through online and it's got checkpoints along the way. I mean, COVID still means people are working remotely, even in our own state agencies. So moving forward with the Structural Pest Control Board. So again, I've come up here to this Regulatory Programs tab. I'm over here in the same area, but instead of being down here in the pesticides, I've slid up to the Structural Pest Control Service. I get there, and then I've got choices, because this is where I said it's different. If we're going to focus on applying for a certified applicator license, as previously stated, the apprentice registration process is a little bit different. But I will say this while we are on this page. If you are a structural pest control provider and you are bringing on an apprentice, the day you bring them on and the day that you hire them and everything is a go is the day that you file with TDA that you are hiring them, because you can't officially clock start them training until you filed with TDA. So that's where the paper and the online begins, but it's also, don't drag your heels. You know you're going to hire John Doe. And if you're worried about a background check, remember, part of licensing standards for the state of Texas is everyone goes through a background check. Doesn't matter who you are. Our legislature put that into play several years ago. So every new employee, any person that goes through this system will eventually go through a background check. So how do you apply online? Well, here is the online portal. You can see all these things. You've got the Ag Pesticide Applicator license, which is for private applicators. You see the pesticide licenses, that's for the commercial and non-commercial. And then you come down here and you've got structural pest control service. And right below this is apprentice registration. And they even have their separate category for certified applicators. But if you go here or here, they pretty much take you to the same spot. So again, even when you click on it, on this, wait a second, back. Even when you click over here, you're going to get this drop down. So please select the type of application you wish to apply for. You get this whole menu. So again, research, facility, structurals, apprentice, certified applicator, commercial business license, everything. If I'm only working in greenhouses, I would come down here and get the nursery floral stuff. This helps just push you through an easier process, because we're all now familiar with any drop-down menu, because none of y'all can tell me that you haven't visited at least Amazon or some other online shopping experience in the last 365 days, because I'd call you out as a liar. So you get here at TDA eApply, all right? And I'm going to go through structural and ag just so you can see the differences, but there's a couple of things. All right, I got in here and I said, what do I want to apply for? Well, I need my certified applicator license. I click on that, and then I work for a school district. I'm going to select the non-commercial certified applicator when I get there, because it's confusing, because all you see is a certified applicator, like I said on that prior screen. It's the same thing. And then you get a second drop-down menu that says non-commercial certified applicator. Yes, they do ask you this question about, do you have an active duty service member? Again, that is a TDA, I mean, not a TDA requirement, a legislative requirement. Who's those other people? Pretty, Marble Dome. Then they ask you other information, your name, your ID, your taxpayer ID type. And again, if you are a school, they may ask you for that, because this is where you want to define the difference between, I don't want this for me personally, I want this to go for where I work. And then there is additional information, and trust me, they ask a lot of information. Switching gears, I go to that TDA commercial ag license. So I want to start my own landscape business, and I want to be able to put out herbicides and some fire ant bait or take care of mold crickets. Well, then I go on to this eApply again, and I'm going to go for this commercial pesticide applicator heading. And then you get choices, because we love to give you choices. Are you going to be a private applicator? In other words, you're going to watch over somebody who's doing restricted use applications. Generally, it's an agricultural commodity, and you're going to oversee folks. Or are you going to start your own little business and you're an agricultural commercial applicator? And again, you're going to do restricted use. You're a non-commercial applicator. Again, you've got your private business, you're a golf course, you're a hospital, hotel, motel, nursing home, somewhere where the public would feel better knowing you are a licensed applicator. And then you're a non-commercial political subdivision. Again, it's a governmental type of entity. So you're a school district or you're a college, that type of place. This is, again, a qualifier. You don't have to. Again, like I said, the active duty question, state mandated question, they already up front ask you about your convictions. And then again, how are you going to be identified? What's your taxpayer ID? Again, it could be your business number, or if, again, you're a private entity. Like I said, I work for Texas A&M AgriLife Extension. We have our own tax ID number. I know TASB does as well. So everybody's got that. All right. So now what? Because now I know your heads are spinning, okay? If you're brand new and you're not sure where to go from there, well, here's what you do. You get your study materials, you apply. Then what you need to do is take that day-long technician course. Like I said, Dr. Renchi offers it, but if you scan this code, because I couldn't even put up the whole web page, it would drive y'all nuts. But if you scan that code, the Department of Ag has a list, a long list of providers. And with COVID, yes, there are options that you can sit through this class online. You can go in person and take it. It is, for those of you that have ever gone through school IPM, especially if you go to this site where it says agrilife.org/AES, that means you would get the beloved Dr. Don Renchi as your instructor. And as if you've never had the experience with Dr. Renchi, he will entertain you as well as educate you. The other providers, Mr. Kezar offers courses. I know that there are several other, when I was looking this up, I was amazed at how many are out there. It's just a matter of calling and finding out what fits for you if you want to take that course. I sat through it. I sat through it a couple of times because, again, I was new. I had my science degree, but this pesticide stuff, in the beginning kind of flipped me out. Of course, then I had a Don Renchi and a Mike Merchant who told me when I sat for my exams, I needed to get 90s on them, not just pass. No pressure. Thank God for Dr. Jim McAfee. He took me aside and said, just pass with a 76 and be thankful. So, Miss Carmen, to answer your question, is the exams online? Yes. The caveat is the exams are online, but they are done at an approved testing center. Okay. You are going to be tested in a testing center just like plumbers, just like nurses, just like a lot of other folks. So once you've gone through the application process with the Department of Ag, you've passed your background check, everything. And this is why it is very important that when you fill out the application, you, one, put your correct name, your work address, so that when they send you the letter that says, congratulations, you are now eligible to take your exams, you get the letter in the right place at the right time. Because in that letter, you will get specific instructions related to you and you only to get you in to sign up, because they will give you your email address, which is what you need when you do. I don't care who you are. You had better have an email address if you want to get through this process. Second of all, you will have a specific password to log in. Once you log in, yeah, you can change the password to something much more rememberable than 54K3921 asterisk, whatever, because that's what they give you for passwords. So you go in here and you change this. Then once you get in here, you have choices. So you're on this main screen. You see where it says governmental and state licensing. You're going to click on that, or you're going to click on here to sign in, and it's going to do this virtually the same thing. And when you get there on that licensing page, you pick a state. So the drop-down menu, obviously you would want to pick Texas. And then if you were going for the ag side, it goes for TDA, Agricultural Pesticide Applicator. That is the drop-down you're looking for. Then you have choices. Your commercial, non-commercial, your commercial political, your private applicator, or private recertification. Because for our private applicators, they do have to recertify every so many years to be in compliance with the state. Again, we are focusing only on commercial and non-commercial today. I put in this screen so that you understand what you are going to sign up for. If you are getting your commercial, non-commercial, and landscape management, you're going to sign up for 2 exams. General standards, and it tells you right here at least 120 minutes. So you're looking at least an hour and a half for this exam. The second exam that you've got to take is landscape maintenance. That's another 75 minutes. So you're looking at least 3 hours sitting in a chair at this proctoring service if you're going for landscape maintenance management. As you can see, there are other exams. Every person who gets a license, no matter the categories over here in this left column, all must take and pass general standards. You can add categories once you pass this, but if you don't pass this, none of these count until you pass the general standards. Switching houses, now we're going to go into the structural pest control service. So again, from my drop-down menu, I go Texas. I pick TDA structural pest control. And from there, it is the certified applicator. And this is why I said there's other categories. We've got structural fumigation. And this is either for applicator or technician. Under the Texas certified applicator, if I was to put that one, there's an additional pull down menu, and it's either certified applicator or non-commercial certified applicator. You do have 2 choices there. And under the technician, there is also commercial and non-commercial technicians as well. You can select which each other, but this gives you an idea of where you're going to be going. Then when you get here, you look at this and go, okay, what exams do I at least need to sign up for? So again, I'm working in a school or a university, and I am going to take care of everything, all those bugs on the inside. Then I need to at least take this general standards exam. Again, no general standards exam, no spraying. You've got to pass this one. Then I want to take my pest control, because again, I want to be able to do stuff indoors. Now, if I'm a brave soul, because I say you're a brave soul, what stressed me out, and I'm sure there's a few people, because I know there's a couple people listening that have already got their licenses, is when you sit down and you take the general standards, the lawn and ornamental, the pest control, and the weed control exam. That is 4 exams. That's a good half a day of sitting and taking an exam. I totally do not recommend that. Get what you really need first. General standards, and typically with a structural license, you really need to be at least indoors with pest. Set up in a couple of weeks to go in and take your L&O and your weed. so that you can do everything on your campus, and it's all one license. You don't have to keep up with two. The fee again for exams is $64. As we wrap this up, here are the things that you need to understand. Like I said, all exams are done through this company called PSI, and they have approved locations. So in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, they have 4 or 5. I know in Lubbock, they've got 1. I mean, they're all around the state. Houston, Austin, San Antonio. The irony is, I was telling my school IPM class, I went to go to the H&R Block office over by my physical office where I work and play. And it was also a PSI testing center. And I went, good to know that H&R Block also can serve as a testing center. But like I said, this is the same place that nurses go, that plumbers go, electricians go. Everybody has moved to this online processing because the beauty of it is once you're done, we all know and immediately, did you pass, did you not pass? Okay, it's just a process. Once you create your account, you get to select what exams you want to take, but also the test location, the date, and the time. You can pick it. And I did ask them physically, and they were like, oh yeah, you can come in on a Saturday morning. That's why we're open. So if that's the best day for you, you can go on a Saturday. They even are open on nights. So the only thing you need to bring, your ID, your letter from TDA that says, yes, you can take the exam because sometimes there's a glitch. And then, like I said, be prepared to be there for a little while. You can't take anything in. They may not even you're going to check your cell phone in a little box, even your keys, but you can have a pen or a pencil. Sometimes, I mean, with COVID, that's been an interesting thing. And then the best thing, my best advice, study some more. Do the practice exams in the back of these books, and you'll pass. So how much does this cost? Well, the average book is around 25 bucks. Like I said, I messed up. I should have put 200 because it's 125 for structural. It's 200 if you're going with the TDA commercial, non-commercial, and then it's 75 for the non-political subdivision. So those fees vary from entity to entity to entity. Do you take the 8-hour course? Average course online, and I did look, I mean, anywhere as low as maybe $100 as much as 200. But again, it depends on where you're at, what you're doing, what you get. Cheaper may not always be better. And more hands-on, I will be very honest, is even preferable because there's so many finer points, especially when we're talking about learning spray rigs and learning about nozzles and talking about drift. And then when you take the exams, like I said, you're going to have to sit and take at least 2 exams, no matter how you're going to cut the mustard. So that's $64 an exam. That's at least $128. And with that being said.
Okay, thanks, Janet. We'll let you catch your breath and get something to drink. We're just a couple minutes over. However, I think everybody understands just the volume of information that needs to be covered to make sure y'all get an idea of what we're looking about the subject matter. Does anyone have any questions? Don't feel like you need to pop them into chat. Just go ahead and unmute and ask your question. We'll hang on just a little bit in case someone has some questions. There's no unintelligent questions. Trust me. It's heady stuff. Jeremy, do you have something?
Yeah, so I got the 8-hour structural training in a course.
Nice.
Yes.
So do I just go online because I have the books already?
All right. So Jeremy, have you gone to that TDA website and filled out your application?
No, ma'am, I'm going to do that.
All right. So that's where you're going to start.
Okay.
Okay. You're gonna go to that TDA structural website. Let me see if I can pull that up.
Yeah, and you could always,
I should have, called out the TDA people, and
right? Well, you can always copy and paste and drop it in
I'm
the chat.
working on it. I'm working on it.
Or Jeremy, we'd be happy to email you or talk offline. But yes, you're definitely on your way. That's great.
Okay.
Here
While
we go, y'all. I'm about to throw this in the chat pod. This is the e-apply website. So that screen that I showed y'all that had the ag pesticide applicators, the Go Texan, the plant quality, the structural. Hang on, Dustin, I'll answer that question in a second. But if you go to that e-apply, that's where you go. So Dustin, so he's asking, Frankston ISD is asking in the chart, do I need a political non-commercial or regular non-commercial? So you work for a school district. If you were doing the landscape management, yes, you could choose that option. Structural, you just need the non-commercial. So and Frankston, if you're coming in and out of the building, I mean, I know your district only because I've been doing the job for 20 years. What district don't I know anymore? But you may come in and out. So you might want that structural license and non-commercial, and you get the pest and at least the lawn and ornamental. But I also know at your district, you're going to want the herbicide. Same for you, Jeremy.
Okay.
yeah, so like Janet said, start with do I want to take care of the outside or do I also want to take care of the inside? When she went through that slide about it's a thought process, you want to go through a matrix and you want to make those decisions in order. And once you make those decisions, then you can focus on what type of licenses you need. And depending on your situation, you're going to have different needs. So.
Okay.
So just to clear up, the political part of the non-commercial, it's non-commercial either way, but I guess I'm still unsure of the political part of that.
So especially on that pesticides division, they made a rule that said that, our brethren don't have to pay the full price. On the structural side, we still pay the full price because it's a little bit different law. Okay, remember when I was talking about, and I'm gonna pick on you, Dustin, because you were just in school. I can, bless your heart, online, thumbs up. But on the structural side, there are some more rules in that occupations code. So that's why there's a difference.
Okay, makes sense.
Great question, Dustin. Thank you. And thank you, Jeremy, for asking those questions about your licensing process. Anybody else? We're going to hang on a few more minutes. Really appreciate y'all asking these questions. We understand it's not the easiest to navigate. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Deborah Turner.
Thanks for posting that in the chat for everybody. Okay.
Okay, well, if that's it, I mean, it's Friday, and I mean, it's almost lunchtime. For some of y'all, it may really be lunchtime.
Yeah, thank you, Janet. Really appreciate everybody hanging on. We'll send out a link. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've already mentioned about the October. Boy, I've really jumped ahead. The April 6th webinar, we'll send that out again.
Yep, yeah, and we'll send out, yeah, so look for our next webinar on April 6th. Registration is open for that. And as soon as we've got the recording available, we'll send out a link so you can access a recording of today's presentation, as well as our contact information. If you have questions as this goes on, feel free to reach out to us. We're here to help. You're not in this alone, even though sometimes it feels like it. Oh, one more question just came in, Janet. I have a private applicator's license. Can that be, oh, this is a great question. Can that be used towards getting my non-commercial political subdivision, or do I need to start over? Great question.
Sadly, yes. The good part is once you do get it, though, you get your non-commercial, you can use your CEUs together on both licenses.
Yeah, that is a little bit of a benefit, a little bit of cost savings down the road.
Down the road, but they really want you because yeah, I think there's a different exam. I have to go back and look, and I would have to I didn't see an ag person on here. I see my structural folks from TDA, but if you get with me, or I can tell you what, if you will call Dr. Renchi's office, he knows the answer to that question.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
I'm an
Yeah,
IT coordinator at the moment, and I would like to get my license for the district. And I was gonna ask the same thing. I know I did I think it was 6-hour training with a test as an IPM coordinator. Would that also help me go towards the non-commercial license, or do I have to start all over again as well?
You have to take the other 8-hour class. The school IPM and pesticide licensing are two different things.
They're both, school IPM coordinator training is required. However, it is completely unrelated to your pest control licensing. And I get it. There's similar information that's provided, and so it can definitely be confusing. And we commend you for taking the IPM coordinator training. However, you checked one box. In order for you to apply pesticides, it's a whole nother set of boxes, and that's what Janet focused on today.
Okay.
So, but great question. Thank you for providing that, Carmen. Okay, good stuff. They're still kind of rolling in. So
Go ahead,
Jeremy.
I go on the website, the TDA website, and I register, and then I apply to take either the pest, the lawn, or the weed and termite.
Yeah, so when you get on that website and you e-apply, you'll fill out the whole application, do the payment with TDA, and then it will probably take you 30 days to get that letter back that says you are now eligible to go take your exam at PSI. So it won't be immediate, but the sooner you start, the sooner it gets through the TDA process. Because like I said, part of it is that background check. And even though you work for a school district and you've been through one,
It's another.
we who work in government are background checked so often that, I'm like, really?
But if he said he already has the books, does he still has to pay that fee? Because I also have the books.
The books have nothing to do with signing up with TDA.
Are there any more books?
No.
Besides the book I have? Okay.
Well, wait a second. Yes, there are the pest category and the lawn and ornamental category.
So they all have their own individual books.
Yes.
Okay.
So these are like the two common ones. Oh, wait a second. Let me take my background off. Oh, now y'all gonna get to see the Janet Messy office. But this is the landscape maintenance and ornamental and turf book. And then this is the pest control book.
Okay.
Notice the difference. Structural pest control is pretty darn thick, and we give you nothing in this book. You got to do a lot of winging it in this book.
Okay.
But yeah, Jeremy, if you get with that ag and environmental safety website, they can hook you up with the books.
Okay.
Where you got that study material.
Okay. Thank
You already
you.
showed me. Same for you, Carmen. Once you get those books, but like I said, you can get the study material, but if you don't start applying to the Department of Ag, the Texas Department of Ag is who you must apply to. That does take at least 30 days. All right, any more questions? No?
I don't see anything in the chat. So, Janet, thank you so much for taking the time to share just an inkling of information that you have. I hope everyone, if this is your first time to learn from Janet, you'll know just the wealth of knowledge that she has. So when we say reach out,